trying. From the darkness, a classic is reborn.
Right at the end of our Gamescom, we managed to catch up with Johan. It's been a little bit of an elusive man. I've been trying to get a hold of you all day, but finally catching up on some Gauntlet talk. The game is coming out very soon. Tell us a little bit about the journey that you've had with Gauntlet.
I'm a bit too stressed out to tell you anything, really. I mean, the game is out in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey. I mean, it all started when we went to E3 like 2 years ago, I guess it was. Met up with some Warner executives, you know, the suits, the true classic suits. And they were like, well, guys, we really liked Magicka, so what do you feel about like making a game with us? And we're like, yeah, well, and they go on like, well, maybe do one of our IPs, and you know, I like to create my own IPs, and I'm like, well, what could it possibly offer that's interesting? So one of the executives, he started like talking about one IP after another, and I'm like, well, that's whatever. And then he mentions like, and we got another IP, Gauntlet. And I look at my partner Emil, and we have this like this
Eureka moment.
Yeah, telepathy moment, and we look at each other, and we're both saying like, "Don't freak out, don't freak out," and that lasts for like 5 seconds, and then I'm freaking out. I'm like, "Gauntlet, that's awesome! That's like one of our biggest inspirations from Magicka," and now, 2 years later, we're very close to release.
And because Gauntlet is one of those franchises that's been a little bit like, it's been treated like a dog for some years.
Yeah.
What did you go into sort of wanting to sort of, you know, bring back that original feeling? What were your thoughts going into the project?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we've seen time and time again is that when people make remakes, when people do a rebranding of something, it's always, it doesn't turn out to be like what you want. And we went back and we played the original Gauntlet. We played it, and we had a ton of fun. And we realized that the original game is so much fun. So let's just take all of that made it so much fun and just make an Arrowhead game out of it. So that's basically what we did. We kept all the original classes. We didn't want to mess with any of the sequel classes or anything like that. Just keep it to the elf, the wizard, the warrior, and the Valkyrie. Just go with those and try to find a gameplay that's just immensely fun in 4-player co-op, which is what we're best at.
So, what was that magic Arrowhead sauce that you brought to the table?
Well, I mean, in a way, we didn't have to bring that much to the Gauntlet because Gauntlet is what inspired us. So now it's just refining and doing all of that we usually do. So we kept most of it. You can shoot the food, you can there's death chasing you, and there's hordes of monsters, tons of monsters. So every time you go into a room, you see gold on the other side of the room, and you got this horde of monsters. And you know that if I don't get the gold first, somebody else will get it. So it's just a matter of like trying to ruin the game for everybody else by just being greedy. And that's sort of what the game is all about. It's about the greed. You're playing together, but you're still competing for those last gold coins. And it brings the team into trouble all the time, and you die because people make bad decisions. And yeah, that's the Arrowhead sauce. It's just chaotic, a series of unfortunate events, really.
And speaking of those unfortunate events, but you did tweak a little bit, but friendly fire is of course a hallmark. You tweaked that somewhat. What's left in there in terms of friendly fire?
So initially we started off with friendly fire always on, as we always do, and we realized that with this amount of monsters, with this amount of chaos, the friendly fire wasn't fun in the same way it usually is. So it's like, what the hell? What are we supposed to do? So the friendly fire has sort of been is only affected by sort of like the most powerful spells you can find, which are called relics. It's sort of like your magic potions, if you will, from the original game. But we bumped those up a bit, And now you got a ton of those relics which you can use, and it's everything from like whirlwinds to like freezing auras to illusions, and those all comprise the sort of friendly fire aspect. And
Most awesome friendly fire moments are still in there. That's what you're saying.
So I mean, somebody thinks that you're in this room and there's just mummies everywhere, and you're like, well, maybe if I use my whirlwind, like the tornado. And you do, and you're just throwing your friends around in all directions, and eventually, like, somebody will end up right in front of some like huge monster that's about to crush them, and it becomes like this chaotic mess without us having to have that from the fire. And to a certain extent, I guess one of the things that we sort of changed from the original, like our previous titles, is that we feel that Gauntlet needs to reach a bigger audience. So we're going more towards a bit more towards the traditional kind of games, but still keeping sort of that Arrowhead Sauce in the title.
So what's the scope of this title? Because is it like a little bit of a taste of it, or how big is it, and how expansive is the game?
So we got 3 environments. So we got the crypts, caves, and lava environment. So you're going down into this dungeon basically. Well, it's like
Lava on the bottom, right?
Exactly. And you have to defeat this Morak, who's the narrator and the sort of the evil guy. So he's sort of trying to guide you in a way, because he's so tired of all these heroes trying to come into his dungeon, and he sort of mocks you in every way he can. But he sort of still hopes that you'll eventually maybe succeed in finishing the Gauntlet and getting to set him free. And that's sort of where we get to push a bit of our humor. We have like all of the characters have their own personality. So, like the warrior is this diva, basically. Like he's the king of the world. He's like an arena champion, and everything he does. I mean, he's so good at fighting, so you can't blame him for being so vain. He's like, well, I'm gonna take all of those enemies and I'm gonna kill them on my own, and he does it. So, and the elf is sort of like this. I mean, he comes from this magical land, so he's basically like a tourist in the human world. So I mean, if there's a dragon and there's like a nice painting, he's not impressed by the dragon. He's impressed by the nice painting, because dragons exist. They're plentiful in his realm. The Valkyrie is sort of like this battle-hardened, basically like a god of war, and she is like the leader of the pack as well. And she is sort of like getting fed up with all of the other heroes' bullshit. And the wizard he's basically just crazy. He's like Dylan Moran, like being really grumpy and all the time, but he's still really wise. And one of the things that we thought with these 4 classes is that we want to make them really different from each other. So the warrior is very much like in there, fight, just cut down every single enemy you can find and try to kill them before they have the chance to attack you. The Valkyrie has, of course, her shield, so she can do a shield block and sort of protect the team and sort of kite the enemies. The elf, of course, has his bow and like a precision shot. And the wizard has, well, you could guess it, he has the ability to combine elements into spells.
All right. Certainly sounds like a game that we should get our hands on. It's about a few weeks out there.
Yeah.
And it's only PC still?
Yeah, it's PC Steam. And I mean, we're looking at all our alternatives, and I mean, the game is a 4-player co-op game, so it makes sense to have it on everywhere. So we're dying to just release it on PC, see the reaction from the PC audience, and time will tell what happens with it. And of course, like we did with Magicka and the Shonen Effect and every other game, we're gonna support the game for a long time. We're gonna release free updates, and we're gonna do some fun things with DLCs and whatnot. Now there's giant balls walking past us.
These guys are about as old as Gauntlet.
Yeah, I think so as well.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Glory awaits. Invade the darkness.